One of them did your homework.
All right, everyone on Zoom, can you hear me and can you see all of us on the screen? Oh.
I can see. Hi, this is Sandy. I can see and hear.
You can see and hear everyone. You can see Miss Lindsay Wright and Miss Rochelle Allen.
I can see three.
Yes, I can see everyone.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Mom Talk for March 30th for Women's History Month. We are joined by the illustrious crew, Ms. Lindsay Wright and Rochelle Allen. And we are so happy that they're here today to grace us with their presence and their busy schedule. When I tell you it is let me tell you, first of all, Miss Rochelle Allen, it took us how many months to get us here?
A few. We got it right finally.
Yes, finally. And for Miss Lindsay Wright, she's been with us before, but we're so happy that she's here with us again. These women are great. They are moms. They are wives, soon to be moms again. Blended families, marriage, parenting, relationships, everything. And we are so happy to have them here today. I am Makeda Green, Dr. Green, and I'm so happy for everyone to be here today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Black Mom Society. We are a women's group that is here to empower moms of all. So whether you are a godmother, momty, auntie, grandmother, friend mom, sister mom, whatever, however you identify as yourself, stepmom, mom of, a blended family, bonus moms, whichever mom you choose to be, however mom you are to whoever's in your life, we are here and we welcome you and we thank you. And with that being said, we will get started on our mom talk for today, which is on family wellness and relationships. And I'll tell you right now that this was a conversation that I've been trying to have for a while. I really wanted to have it during COVID just because of how the dynamics were shifting in different households during COVID. People were spending a lot more time together, more than they probably wanted to or anticipated. And it brought a lot of conversation and a lot of different ways that people wanted to parent, dynamics, relationships, marriage, co-parenting, whatever it may be. And so, I'm very happy, and everything is in timing, right? So we're definitely happy that we're able to have the conversation now because it's great to see how, things are now with everyone, right? So with that being said, we're going to get started. Miss Wright is a counselor out here in the Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, the DMV area. She is a school-based counselor, so she provides school-based mental health services for students, particularly in the secondary level right now. And she's also the CEO founder of New Dreamers, which is a organization and business that focuses on advocacy for parents and children within the school setting, K through 12. And if you need her information, we can absolutely send that to you and give that to you at the end. And we also have Miss Rochelle Allen, who is all things computer science. She is currently a police detective for New York Police Department. She is a mom of two. I was gonna say 0.5 because he's
not quite here yet.
He's not quite here yet, but he's still 2. And she is also she's also an advocate for children of special needs. Having a child that has autism herself, she is always advocating for his needs and also needs of other kids out in New York City metropolitan area and Long Island. So if you need her information as well, she is available for the call, and she actually changed her name to Detective Autistic Mom. So if you didn't know, now you know. And if you didn't want to know, now you know. So with that being said, we have a great space with us here, and we're going to get started. We're going to get started with some of our questions with how has having kids changed your relationship? So maybe from before and after. I know.
I know for me, kids have they've made an impact. They've I used to love to sleep in. I'd wake up at whatever hour and it'd be great and do whatever it felt like I needed to do. But with kids, sleep is a lost art form. Something that is once cherished is very, yeah, it's like gold. Um, and so much so I feel like even though you are like everything revolves around your kid. Once you become a mom, even a stepmom, like anything, it's just like it's something that you can't explain. But when you're there, all your maternal instincts just start flooding and coming to the forefront, and it just you question yourself a lot. There's a lot of mom guilt, but you work through it, and I couldn't have done it without my village. Like I always heard the saying, "It takes a village," and I was like, "Ah, yeah, whatever." But no, you cannot function without the people, especially other moms in your life. So that's how having a child has changed my life, all for the better.
All for the better. I love that tagline.
So, being a mom has just, yep, it
Yep.
has changed. So I had a stillborn first. So, so my daughter always wants me to be mindful that I had a child before her, which is fine, right? So I feel like motherhood has changed how I view motherhood, if that makes sense, right? Because you always think as a mom it's supposed to be a certain way. And you always look at it like, oh, when you think about it when you're younger, right? Like when I have children, it's going to be, the TV tells you how it's supposed to look. So I think for me, having a challenge prior to having children, showed me that it was going to be, that motherhood was nothing to play with, right? Mm-hmm. So, yes, a village around your kids. My mother's on the call right now. I can't see her, but I'm more than sure she's there.
I see her.
Okay, yep. And I'm sure, I think you said Sandy. That's my cousin. Listen. And the reason why I say that is because the trials and tribulations of not even when you're pregnant and after you have the children, it's even more important as you're rearing them, right? So I love being a mom, but there are some times where I question what I thought motherhood would look like. So I have to always remind myself that this is my story. This is how I um parent, and may not be how everybody else parents, but motherhood definitely has its ups and downs. And having an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old is different, right? They're a girl and a boy, so you have to rear them differently. But it has its challenges. But asking for help has been probably one of the most challenging but rewarding parts of being a mom. And we don't have these talks a lot about motherhood. So, Makeda, shout out to you for even opening up this platform for moms to even, talk about it. Because you just don't. You always think it's all good until it's not.
It's not.
It's not. It's true. Because I can say for me, the hardest part was postpartum, fourth trimester. I was like, I'm a psychologist. I got this. That was my whole thing. Like, I know the signs. What are you saying? This is not, I'm okay. And it hit me. And it was my OB that told me, she was like, I think, she's like, we gotta take a step. And we had a heart to heart. I'll never forget it. And that was when I said, okay. But we do need a village. And I would say for me, it was very difficult. You know, Lindsay, we've been friends for a long time, but she lives like 2 diaper changes away from me. And Rochelle lives 204 miles away. So in a lot of ways, it was a lot to manage in the beginning. We needed a lot of help just with knowing how to diaper change, what to do, a lot of things that, you know, my husband and I, we just didn't anticipate. We thought we were fine. We got like, how hard can this be? And I think it's because we saw other people doing it. We're like, that's easy. And you know, you get the kids, right? But then you give it back, you know. And with working with kids and studying and all of this stuff, you don't really realize the real life that comes with it. With the career and just with balancing another person's needs as well. And then with, in my case, forgetting that I too needed some time, and not realizing that a lot of the things that I used to like, which was, you know, traveling or, you know, just sleep, were like diamonds, you know. You just didn't have them anymore. It was like, wait a minute, like I can't sleep in, hold on. So it's definitely, I can say that it does change, and we don't talk about this. A lot of times I think it's more difficult to talk about it now because we see the I would say the high gloss of it on Instagram with these couple goals and the kitchens that look so clean. And I'm like, how did your kitchen get so clean? When did this happen? Or the floor with no toys on it. And I'm like, where are the toys? like, is it me? Like, how did you do all of this? And so not, you know, just forgetting that a lot of things on social media are just, you know, for the moment, they're momentary, or maybe they're just in a room and the other house is a mess, but you would never know that. But just, seeing that gives you, and it's on your feed consistently, constantly. And so we don't get to have those real conversations because everyone is just touch and go. But I would, so another, you know, segueing into this, we touched on, okay, how has it changed your relationship? But how do you really get into the relationship now? So what are some, because nowadays it's intentional, right? Like everything you do has to be intentional. Lindsay has taught me that with, like, you know, you gotta have date nights, you gotta have these things. But what are some strategies do you have, or what are some things that you talk about just to be intentional about it? Like, what do you do? Or even if you are.
So I think for us, Rashad and I, to say that we've even been together 15 years and married 12 is insane to me. So I think that for us, intentionality changes as we grow in our marriage, right? So at first it was great. Like, you know, we can just get up and go on a date and not have to worry about, you know, where children going and how they're going to get there and back and forth. But now dating looks different. So it may be us sitting on the couch going through some recipes on TikTok, or, you know, it shifts. But the intentionality behind it is communication. So our communication has to shift. So how we talk to each other, when we talk to each other, communicating schedules, but also coming back to, you know, saying I love you, you know, making sure we hug each other, making sure we kiss. So we have to make sure that we're not losing ourselves. And again, asking someone to keep our children, right? So because we have two, you know, we try to keep them together, but now Grace is older and Jackson is younger. So one of my other girlfriends has a son that's similar in age to Jackson. So she'll keep him, and then Grace has her own friends. So we gotta try to just make sure everyone's together. But what helps is just planning it out, and then also getting dressed up to go, right? So normally we would go to the movies and we would just throw on some sweats and a t-shirt, and it's like we going to the movies. Now we both decided, actually this last couple of months, that when we go out, we're going to actually present ourselves to each other in the best way we can. So if I put on sweatpants, I'm making sure I do my face. I make sure that my shirt is clean. I make sure all those things are in place to the point where now my kids are like, oh, mommy and daddy are going out, right? Before they wouldn't even know if we were going to the grocery store or to Roof Chris, right? So you have to be very intentional about putting it on. So Rashad and I have been very intentional about, we don't care if we're going to Whole Foods, right? We're going to go and we're going to put on some clothes and we're going to, look presentable. So I think that makes us even more attracted to one another because it shows that we have actually intentionally invested in ourselves so we can invest in one another.
I like that. I like that a lot. Just the
I do
intentionality.
too.
Yeah, because it's so easy to just put on leggings and a sweats because that's literally how your mood is the entire time anyway. You're so tired that why would you want
Because when you
to
put on your clothes, the
Mhm.
clothes set the mood, right? So
Right.
if you're in sweats and a t-shirt, he's like, well, maybe we should go somewhere afterwards. You're like, nah, let's just go home. But if you got it on and you look, decent, you know what I'm saying? He's like, well, maybe we should go, maybe we can ask your mom to keep the kids, or my mom can keep the kids for the night. And then we can hang out, or maybe your girls can, that's my village upstairs, actually making all this noise. There is two 16-year-olds upstairs, my 8-year-old and my 4-year-old. Who knows what they're fighting about? Okay. But it doesn't matter to me because I'm not with them. But yeah, it just makes you feel different when you actually invest in putting on, some clothes. And it makes the mood that you just appreciate each other so much more. So that's what we've been doing. It's been working so far.
Yeah, I completely agree because t-shirts and sweats is the unofficial uniform for parents.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing like a t-shirt and some sweats or some leggings. Like, look here, I don't have the time. I have to figure it out. Your hair is in a messy bun. You have to shuffle from one end to the next. It's just so chaotic with kids. I think I agree a lot with what Lindsay said. I feel like you have to be very intentional. It's very easy to get lost in a rut. My partner and I, Travis and I, are like we just go. Like sometimes you just find yourself just going and it's like a constant, it's like a marathon. You're like, okay, we have to do this and you have to do this. And we were actually talking about it today and just going over the questions. And then I was like, you know what, this is a really good conversation for us to have as well. I think what keeps us going is we read each other and we know how to tag in. So my son is 6 and he has autism. He has a 9-year-old son and we have another one as well on the way. So we're so used to just going. Like,
Yes.
it's like an unspoken language. Like, look at me and I look at you like, okay, what we have to do today? And you're here and I'm there and we'll figure it out in between. So what really works for us is a calendar. Lord, a calendar. You schedule, everything is on the calendar. The bills, the dates, the appointments, everything is on the calendar because it is so easy to forget. You forget that you ate. Like I didn't eat today. The kids ate, but did we eat? No. And and if you're forgetting that, you're definitely not remembering that. Hey, how you doing? Good morning. I love you. So we're very intentional about checking in with each other. Nothing like scheduled, just like throughout the day. Just, hey, you all right? You're good? And, sometimes just tapping into each other's feelings because sometimes it can be overwhelming. And you sit down at the end of the day and it's like, whew, okay, like I need to take a breath. So I would say a calendar. I would say also checking with each other is very important. We were talking about it today. Like sometimes you don't have 100% to give. And you need to be able to articulate that to your partner because communication is big. Because sometimes you're just so into whatever's going on with you, and then you have to deal with the kids, and then you forget to talk. You need to discuss it. Like, hey, I only got 80% for you today. or today's a 40%. You got to tag it and you got to dig deep for the 60 for me because I don't have it. And he'll understand, or I'll understand, or I'll read his mood. And I'm like, yeah, I got this. You take care of bath time, or I'm cooking, or sometimes he'll cook and I'll do bath time. Or if he sees that I'm frustrated with something, because I've been very frustrated like lately. So he'll go like, go sit down. And I think that that's very important. Also with dating, we really, you have to date each other. It's so easy to get lost in this dance of taking care of kids and the responsibilities of adulthood that it's a lot. So you have to be intentional about dating each other. You have to rely on your friends. Like, hey, my village, my parents, hands down, the best. My mother lives 500 miles away, and I low-key think that she is the CEO of JetBlue because that lady will hop on a flight for her grandkid. Like, okay. She goes to the calendar. She's like, he has break this week and this week. I will be there the Friday before, and I will be like, you have to be very intentional. Like, so the family helps, the village helps, and it helps you just to get back to yourself because you can't pour from an empty cup. Like,
True.
Your kids will be looking at you like, well, what's your problem? Because you're so frustrated.
Yeah, and I also think too, me and I think it was, I'm not if it was one of my friends, but I want to say it was Trish. You know Trish, Makeda, Dr. Green. We were kind of talking about how motherhood looked totally different when we were coming up, right? Mm-hmm. So our parents made it look bomb. Yes. Right? They made it look so bomb to the point where, hold on one sec.
Yes.
To the point where, you know, even just, I never, it's like you never seen your parents sweat, right? Mm-hmm. So even if the house was falling apart,
you would never know.
Dinner was done, my breakfast was made.
Yes.
The it was just like I never. So to me, I'm like, okay,
I could do this.
Yeah.
No, ma'am. Until now, my mom was like, oh, that was right. I was losing my mind. You know, and I'm like, well, you didn't look like it, right? And I think that was the part for me that when I walked into motherhood, I wanted to be a replication of my mother. Mm-hmm. But as a child, you're not supposed to know everything that's going on in the house. It's not your responsibility because we were taken care of, right? But the way such poise and, you know, hair was always done, nails were always done, suits every day. Like, and I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't I was an amazing kid, however, right? But I just feel that we try to replicate it, and now we know if you really talk to your parent that no, baby, you know, this was what life looked like, right? Yes. And I think that, you know, we're all around the same age, so our parents made it look so easy. I don't feel like my mom missed a cheerleading practice, a game for my brother. I seen her sleep, seen her wake up, went to work, but the everyday to see how I'm moving now, and I have to sometimes say like, this is a lot, and she's like, yeah, baby, it is, and I'm like, but that's not what I saw.
Right. You know, as a kid, you saw your parents polished.
Yeah, like polished and had it going on, and I'm like, I look a mess. Like I
feel a mess.
I feel a mess.
Right, and I'm like
overwhelmed. Yes.
Yeah,
I learned something with that though.
Yeah, I did. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
My thing is, and I saw something on Instagram, and it was so simple, and I was like, why did I think of that? You can't do every chore on Saturdays and Sundays. You pick one thing every day. But I also learned that you can't be Superwoman. There is no prize for being super mom. I can do this. I'm going to go to this practice. I'm going to do my yoga. I'm going to drink my water. And I'm going to take care of my kids. You're going to look crazy. You're going to be in a closet drinking box wine and losing your mind while the house is burning down. That's what you end up doing.
And
Then they
don't
showed it
forget,
on
don't
TV
forget
shows.
rocking and swaying. Don't forget
Rocking
the
and
swaying.
swaying.
Then
And
they
your
had
hair
that on
sticking up
TV
like
shows.
this.
Then they show that on TV shows with people
Listen,
drinking box
losing
wine
it,
in the
drinking
closet,
box
losing it.
wine. And the thing is, I am not trying to be super mom. I cannot do it all. And once you tell yourself that, like, look, it's okay. It's the same prize. You will do what you can. And I learned that as well. Like, once you know that, as much as we've seen our parents are polished, like you said, Lindsay, like, we never saw them sweat at all. And
Never.
it's not until you have those conversations when you become a mom, because your parent becomes a different person to you once you're a parent now, you can have different conversations and they'll just start like giving you all the tea of what was going on behind the scenes. And I was like, you know what? I'm so glad I didn't know that as a kid, because I would look at you crazy.
It's true. Because I remember when, you know, my son, he turned, I want to say, it was like 3, 4. And I said, nope, he's going to be in everything. He has to be globally competitive. He has to know these languages. He has to do this. He has to do that. And I was like, I was like, Mom, that's how you had me. And she was like, no. She was like, we picked what I could do. She's like, I picked what I can go to. She's like, I picked based on my schedule, what I can afford, what, you know, she was like, I didn't do all of that. She was like, no. She was like, you were consistent. She was like, you did music and you did dance. She was like, we didn't do anything outside of that. She's like, whatever else that was extra, that was your father. She was like, we didn't do any of that. And when I look back on it, I said, that makes a lot of sense, because I remember last year I went nuts. I had David in everything. I mean, they know I had him in we had a schedule. My husband was going crazy. I was going crazy. I had him in, you know, I was like, he has to go to this school. He has to go to this school and that school and this one and this program. And it just all fell apart. And it was at that moment I said, you know what, we got to take it back to zero. I got to think about the person that I'm dealing with. Like, yes, I want him to be globally competitive, but I need to see what my kid actually needs and what is really best for my sanity and my husband's sanity. Because the difference is that he travels for work, so he's not here all the time. So I'm basically doing it the majority of the work 5 days a week, maybe even 6 days a week. So I had to be able to, you know, I still have to be able to be mindful of, okay, what can we do based on my schedule? And, you know, what I can't take on this contract, can't take on that contract, and being able to say no. And for me, that was part of my wellness. For my family, even for myself, was saying no, because I was just saying yes. I was like, yes, I can do this. He's going to be in that program. He's going to speak 6 languages by the age of 9. He's going to be all these things. And Lindsay's shaking her head because she knew, nodding her head because she knew that's exactly what my mantra was every single time I spoke about him. And she was like, "You're going to go nuts." And it happened. We fell apart. And we had to take it all the way back. All the way back. And I realized that that's okay, because now I realize that's okay. I would say a year later, we realized that's okay. So we're here now. We're here now. We're okay now. Because I had to realize that my husband also has a schedule, and he too has his limits of what he can and cannot do. And I have my limits as to what I can and cannot do. And we cannot do it all at the same time. And some things are okay just to wait. You know, he doesn't have to do everything at the same time just because, you know, that's what you think. And it was my mom having to sit me down and say, no, I didn't do all of that. Like, that's not what happened. And that's when I realized, like, okay, and Lindsay's right. Like, of course, as a child, you're not going to know all of these things, you know, but as I look back on it, it made sense, because my mom, she's a nurse. So they have 12-hour schedules. So where was she going to have the time to take me to this and that all the time? She wasn't going to have that time. So being realistic about that, it helps as well. Especially for my relationship, because we have to be very real with a lot of things, because there's not everything that we can do. and just being okay with that. And yes, Rochelle, you're right, because I can't do all the cleaning on one day. It's not going to work. I've learned to do cleaning on, well, I do learn to do laundry on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and everything else falls into place. But I want to say, like, speaking of which, like, how do you divide up the parenting responsibilities? So burnout is a real thing. I would say within my household, I've had to relearn, I've had to teach a lot of things just because my husband's Nigerian. So there's a lot of things that there's a cultural difference in there as well. Right. He's, so having to, and it's not to say he doesn't want to do it. He's just like, I had to learn that it's not that he doesn't want to, it's just that he's like asking, okay, what do you want me to do? And I had to break down what it is we needed to do and those expectations of what needs to happen. So like just a basic example of kindergarten open house, having to explain we have to go to the school to, talk about, learn about the school and that stuff. So he had to learn about what that was, and having to then understand, okay, what are those responsibilities going to look like? So how do you all divide that? Like, what does that look like for you?
So Rashad and I have a calendar. We have a family calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on one second.
We can hear it. She said.
Um.
We just heard you say you were very loud.
Oh, okay. I don't know how you heard me, but,
You just mouthed it.
Oh, I mouthed it. Okay.
Yes, we mouthed it.
So we have a family calendar. We have a family email. So everything goes to our family email. We look through that. But we go over the calendar every day before we, do whatever we need to do. But in regards to duties or responsibilities, so for example, dinner tonight, right? I wanted to make sure the food was cooked. Then, because I know that, I had to be on the call. Things were going to be in place. But what ends up happening is, if you think it's supposed to be that way all the time, what ends up happening is you have this false narrative that, oh, this is your responsibility, this is your responsibility, this is your responsibility. So what we end up doing is we say, okay, so dinner has to be done. This morning I got up, cooked dinner, did all the things I needed to do. But then if you see someone that needs a shower or needs a bath, you just go for it, right? So I don't think we divide up responsibilities. I just think that we see each other. So like you were saying, Rochelle, like we see each other, we see the need, we feel the need. So can you please go ask your dad whatever you're asking me for? Thank you. So what ends up happening is we have to make sure that we're shifting the responsibility, but not necessarily saying it. So it's like we don't have to say it. I'm gonna go on mute for just a second.
Okay, Rochelle, you tell me what you.
Yeah, I agree. Look, this is
I love
real.
our mom. This is real.
This is real. Like there is no like, oh, let me hold on. Like this is how it is. The kids are gonna come. They're gonna interrupt. So, but no, she's right. You just have to feel out the need. Like I said, we both have calendars, and we try, to schedule things. You're gonna forget. Like sometimes you're not able to do it, or you don't feel like you're able to do it. So it's like, hey, I can't say this phrase because it's a trigger for him now. But if I say, "Can you?" He's like, but sometimes you just need the person. If you're not able to do it, like you'll just switch. Like you said, somebody needs to take a bath. Dinner has to be made. Sunday, being West Indian, the tradition. You have to cook and make dinner. That didn't happen. That didn't happen today. We're eating out. We're eating out. And you have to be okay with that. We're eating out. Like it's not happening today for the Sunday. Like, so you just have to be able to pivot. You have to have someone that is with you in pivoting.
Yes.
So, because if you can't pivot, dear Lord,
it's not. Yeah, I've learned to just drop it. Because if it's not going to pivot, it's not going to work. Just drop it. Because
try something else. There's plan B, C. You got the whole alphabet. Figure it out.
That's true. Or I'm just not going to do it because I'm not. It's just not worth it, and it's not worth my sanity.
It's more the stress and the headache. Because then when you start getting stressed out, the kids are stressed, and then everybody in here just it's
everybody. It's just too much, and it's sick, to be honest.
And as my son just asked for cereal after I just made a whole full course meal, right?
Yeah, well,
We pivot. Just y'all eating a cereal that you're gonna eat what I cook. But what I was saying was the responsibilities.
that's another thing. That's
Just
another topic too.
yeah, like you want to eat what I cook, but I think that it's the unspoken expectations. We don't have to say it, right? And I think that when you've been with someone, this is everybody on the three of us are in a relationship, so you just know, and especially after you've had children with that person, they kind of know the day to day of how life is supposed to go. So we try our best, but all that to say we pivot a lot, picking up kids from school, like you were saying, Makeda, dropping off. Like I'm the drop off, and some days I'm gonna have to pick up and drop off. But the way we communicate that is in a timely fashion, so that the other person doesn't feel unappreciated or devalued, right? So if I'm like, "Oh, can you pick up Jackson?" I need to tell him that by 12. I don't feel like it's appropriate for him to tell me to do something at 5:30 when I have to get Grace to cheer. Because now I have to really try to pivot. I have to call my mom. I have to find someone to get her. So we just try to make sure that the schedule is airtight by noon in case we have to pivot. Um, we try to make sure dinner is done. We try to make sure Grace's clothes are ironed. Like we try to make the transition smooth. Lunches are made at night. You see the lunchbox empty, make the lunch. So I think that we get caught up in roles sometimes, especially with Instagram and
Yeah.
Facebook and all these things about how
Oh
roles and
yeah.
responsibilities are supposed to be. Me and Rashad got off Facebook and Instagram just because we felt like we needed to cleanse our brain from it all. However, it sets a false expectation of how marriage is supposed to be and the expectation of the woman and the man. So it makes it feel like, oh, he's supposed to be doing this. He's supposed to do these things. She's supposed to do this. She's supposed to do that. So we try to, make our marriage and make our schedule work for us while allowing, the pivots and the support that we need in a timely and respectable manner for the both of us. So that's what we try to do.
And I like that with the pivot because respecting people's time is definitely important. What Lindsay was saying, because that's something that comes with time, and I've learned that from time. I know that Lindsay, she's the longest running here. So what is it, like 20 years at this point? She's like, whatever. I've been telling her 20 years for like 5 years now. So it's 20 years. And so just learning a lot about just knowing that this person is a person too. Because a lot of times when you're with the person all the time, you forget that that person also has, they have a life too outside of you, right? So they have their job, they have their work life, they have commitments, they too have other things. And so being able to respect the person's time is definitely important. I know and also too, like being realistic about it, because you know seeing the unrealistic side of things when we have all these things that we want to do in our mind, but not seeing how it shapes out in real life with the other person that you have to deal with, or the other person that you have to partner with. This I love that y'all talk about calendars. I think in our household we need to start doing a calendar. I think that would help as well. It's just, especially now that things are changing a little bit in my household, we need to most likely we'll definitely have to do a calendar. I've heard that as a motif going on and on with the both of you is about the calendar. Right now we do a lot of like, okay, what is happening, only because he's not here all the time, so that the calendar, there's no need for it. But now that things are changing, that he's, that we're going to be shifting to, every day, what is it, come home every day all the time, no more work from, okay, yes, we now have to do a calendar, because that's going to help a lot with a lot of what we need to do. But what does, so I want to ask Rochelle this, because I know that, well, all of us, it doesn't matter, but how has it been navigating that the blended family? So if you talk about that whole, like, how has that been with that transition?
It's been it's something that you have to be open-minded to, because you're having a child that you're not their parent. So my stance has always been, look, I'm not your mom. I'm not gonna try to replace your mom. I'm a bonus. Like, I'm an extra person in your life that you can share stuff with, that you can, enjoy. Um, I'm big into homework. I'm big into helping whatever you need, because everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and this is something that we can work together. And you're like, I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere, and I want you to feel comfortable. Very big on expressing your feelings and how you feel, and wanting you to feel, accepted and appreciated. So you're gonna have, you're gonna have your bumps, because it's the child will always, be excited, but the other parent may not be. But you have to just ride that wave. I think it's just when you come with a different air and a level of maturity, certain things don't phase you. Like, it's not, and you don't have to be. Everybody can't. Well, you don't have to be like the Will and Jada of life. Like, if we all having the old Will and Jada of life, of not, everyone just on vacation and having a good time. It's just the respect factor. It's like, look, I'm here. I'm a bonus mom. I'm here to be here for your child. I'm always going to provide the best. I'm going to treat your child like if your child was mine. And that's it. And if you have any questions, I'm here. I'm an open book. I like that's the type of energy that I bring, because my son has to be around somebody else. And I want to know, listen, I will scrub heaven and hell and everything in between. I will look you up. I will run you in every database I can, because I need to know where my child is at. And I feel like it sounds crazy and erotic, but that's just who I am. I am that mom that puts the air tag in the shoe and in the bag, because I need to know where my son is at. I need to feel comfortable. So listen, you have to make me feel comfortable, and I have to do the same for you. And I feel like once you have the open lines of communication, it's not a problem. But blended families, they take work like anything else, but it's not as like scary and dramatic as people will make it to be.
Not like what's on TV.
Definitely not like what's on. I do not do the baby mama and the baby daddy drama. I'm not like that. I exit stage left and leave you right in your corner, yapping away. I'm not that person.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm glad that I made sure to share everyone's bio. So thankfully, when you talk about this air tagging and scrubbing databases, people know.
You need to know. You need to know who your child is around.
Maybe. Yeah.
I do not play that with children. I need to know. I need to know who's in front of my child. I need to know who you're around. If you're not going to tell me, or you're not well versed on who person A is, no problem. Give me a few. I'm going to tell you who person A is for you, because that's my child. And nobody can tell you what to do or how to feel when it comes to your kid, especially when my son is, I wouldn't say he's nonverbal. He's learning how to communicate. And I need to, biggest cheerleader, biggest advocate. Anything he needs, I'm there. So paras, friends, anybody running you. I've done it, and I'm not ashamed. But I feel like you have to be that proactive, especially when you when you're a parent to a special needs kid. It taps into a different sense of you. So.
Yes. Can you talk to us about that? Because that's I would say that's interesting, because you talk about the blended family, you talk about the dynamic and how you are with that with that part of your life with that person, but you do have a son that is autistic. If anyone reads her tagline, she has detective/autistic mom. And just having that, what does that look like? Because that may be, I know that in working with Lindsay, and I work with families every day, and a lot of times that is a huge thing with blending families and having those co-parenting, and that dynamic is serious, especially when you have a child that needs more than, let's say, the other children in the household. Or what does that look like? Can you tell us about that?
I feel like you have to have the partner for that. when you see your child gravitate to, especially when, you know, it's a blended family and they gravitate to that person instantly without you not even setting anything up, it's a relief, because you always, as a mom, you always want to make sure that your child is accepted by the person that you choose to be with. And, you know, the same on the other end, you want that person to accept your child. But when you see that it's natural and it just works, it's an amazing thing to watch every day. My son, I found out that he was autistic. I want to say he was about 3 or 4. I didn't know. And I wasn't one of those moms that was necessarily in denial. I just really didn't know. My son was born right before the pandemic, but was deeply affected by the pandemic in the sense that he couldn't get early intervention. And that was a big issue. So, not getting early intervention care was frustrating, and just navigating through the pandemic was just like something I couldn't explain. Um, but once I realized that he had, you know, that he was different in the sense he met all his milestones, it wasn't an issue. Once I realized that, and I was like, okay, something might be wrong here. I never wanted to be that parent that was just so into themselves that they didn't want to accept what was going on in front of them. Like, no, my son is not. Being West Indian, being a Black mom, you're like, oh, nothing wrong with him. He's just a little taking a little slow. It took your uncle about, he was 6 to talk. And everybody's situation is not the same. And you have to be able to catch things and nip it in the bud. So when you get over yourself and you get over the stigmatisms that that there are about special needs or about getting your children help, the earlier the better. If there is nothing wrong, or I wouldn't say that a misdiagnosis, but if it's not what you think and they get the help early, it's even better. It can't hurt them if it's, for therapy. So I was just really proactive, and I hit the ground running with everything when it came to get my son services. I was calling up my school district. I was in everybody's face, because with DOE, especially in the tri-state area, you have to get a little you gotta get a little rough.
Personal.
you gotta
a little personal.
Yeah, you gotta get a little personal. You gotta get a little rough. You gotta roll up your sleeves, and you gotta let them know that you are that mom that's not going away. I've had no problem showing up to people's workplaces, because I need you to understand. I get it. You may have thousands of kids in your district. Very great. Happy for you. My kid matters. I'm going to show you that my kid matters, because I'm doing all the steps. I'm calling and I am reading all the literature that it takes to educate myself, because you don't know. So I'm doing everything that's possible to make sure once they see that you're that parent that's like, oh, that's Miss Allen again, they're going to make sure that they're on point.
Yes, that is true.
So they know how to step to me, and then even navigating through the peaks and valleys with the DOE system. I've written many letters, and I threatened to sue. And once I did that, I started hearing from executives. I started figuring out that there were schools that wasn't even on the list of I guess, like, they have a list according to your district. And they have a list of schools outside your district as well that your kids could attend. All these other schools just started showing up because I was that mom that was just extremely proactive and refused to give up. So once I did that, I just saw a different side, and I was able to get my kid more help. And navigating, once you learn to navigate this road of special needs for kids, it helps. It's a lot, and it takes a lot of friends. Like Makita helped me out tremendously. I have friends that are in DOE that helped me out a lot, explained a lot of things to me, because you don't know.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And they bank on you not knowing, and they bank on you not caring.
That's true.
And you have to be ignorant. Like, you just have to act like you just have to be aggressive. That's what I would say. I wouldn't say ignorant. You just have to be aggressive. And
I was going to say personal.
Yeah, you have to be aggressive with these people. Yeah. And once you do that, I think people just look at you like, oh, wow, okay, no problem. I'm going to give you everything you need, because I don't want any issues with you. And that was it for me as far as, learning with my son. And it's still a process. I encourage a lot of moms, especially friends that I know, because a lot of people, you don't realize that their kids had to get some form of therapy. It's
Don't want
like
to talk about that.
they don't want to talk about it.
No.
I get it, but they don't want to talk. Oh yeah, my son and my daughter had to get therapy too. And it's just like, why are you whispering? Like, why are you whispering about it? There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. People don't want to talk about it, and then you have to open up. I'm always a firm believer in sharing my story because you don't know who experienced what, and you don't know what gems they can give you. Everywhere I am, my son is very friendly. He would talk, he would move around and, talk to people. I am that mom that, when he's having his moment and he's stimming really loud, especially he's on the plane or in public, I'm going to look at you like, okay, yes, he claps. Okay. Oh, he's a loud clapper. Okay, so what? He's stimming. Read a book, learn about autism, learn about special needs, I can educate you on that. But I feel like when you have, just to go back to it, when you have that person that is amazing, like Travis is amazing when it comes to my son. Like they have their own bond and it's great. It's something that that's something that you pray for. So I encourage it. It's something that, they have their own bond. And it's something that I'm very happy that my son has that.
I think it's very important that you share that because in a lot of ways, especially if you do have, when it comes to moms, especially with our kids, we're very protective. So we can get very protective. We get very aggressive. We get very assertive, however you want to call it. For Black women, we're not aggressive. We just, we state what we state and we state what we need. And that's about it. And we have to be a little loud sometimes if we feel like you're not understanding or not hearing or just not caring about what we're saying. But at the same time, I think it's very important that you spoke on that, because a child that needs a little bit more, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about the normalization of our kids needing speech and language services or just need a little bit more, right? It's so different now in the different communities that I'm working in, that the community I'm working in now, it's, completely different. The socioeconomic status is like in the air. So it's twofold. It's poor and low, and then poor and low income, and then the private school is upper and middle, upper and upper class. And so you see the difference in how they understand therapy, what they want for their kids, not afraid to have 6 different specialists see that one child. And then for my families that are newcomers or that are that are just a little bit, lower in their income status, they don't want it. They don't even want to see somebody like me coming in the building. They refuse. They say God will take care of everything. And, you see the dynamics. But we also see the dynamics of where they don't want someone like me coming in, but they're okay with their children being in negative spaces and family dynamics just for the financial wellness, right? So they're okay with being like staying with their partner or staying with this person because money is coming in. And so basically choosing that over the wellness of their child. And I think it's great to see that, we're able to say, no, we need to advocate for our child. We need to advocate for the wellness of our kids, because that's a part of relationships too, right? Is being able to prioritize who is in our life and what we need. And I think as a mom, I would say I've become very much more protective factors. Like, nope, there's a line until you can cross it. I mean, I'm not scrubbing anyone over here. But hey, but at least, we got to have those protective factors until we understand it, because it's true. Like you just have to know. And I think it's important that we talk about this, because we need to even understand, even for ourselves, right? Like we may be professionals, we may have, a lot of degrees behind our names amongst 3 of us, but prioritizing wellness, prioritizing ourselves, prioritizing our kids, we have different understandings of that. And I think is, amongst, we could speak on that, and that's okay. But I will ask, oh, Lindsay, you haven't talk. I'm sorry, I haven't.
No, go for it.
No,
I'm
go
listening.
ahead.
I agree. I agree because I just recently, Grace is a 504, and she learns differently, and I'm okay with that. I learned differently. So I have to be very, very intentional, with making sure that I'm okay and she's okay. So if she's okay, I'm okay. So I'm just trying to make sure that she is supported and loved and valued, in this transition. And thanks to Dr. Green for that. So she just pops on meetings and things of that nature to make sure that she's good. So it's okay if your child is learning, has a learning difference or a learning challenge, or needs some additional love and support. Like, it's okay. But you just have to make sure that you are aware and that you're doing what is needed to make sure your child is getting the support they need. So I'm okay now because I'm pivoting and making sure she's good. So yeah, I'm fine now.
She's fine now. She's fine now, but the journey to get there, what was a personal one, if you say the least. Because similar to Rochelle, you have to do what you need to do. And if that means that you have to bring a bunch of people to the table, then that's what we need to do. And speaking of which, so how do you create actually, just changing a little bit, what are some family traditions that you guys like to do? So just as a couple, I know Lindsay talked about dressing up, no sweats, no leggings, no sneakers, unless they're Fendi. What are some, like, I know she does that in order to go out, like even if it's just to the movies or to Whole Foods, right? Whole Foods. What do you making sure that they dress up and they look good to go anywhere as a couple. But what are some other traditions? I know for us, we do movie night. Nigerian movie night is a thing, or even Nigerian movie night. We always do that. Pick out the latest Nigerian movie that's out, and we watch it. Especially make sure that the little one goes to bed, even though sometimes he'll like come out of his room and try to sit by it very quietly, and they were like, no, go to bed. But what are some family traditions that you guys have as a couple?
So we don't really have traditions as a couple, but what we do is we just try to do things together. Nothing really traditional, but just trying to make sure we're intentional about being together and loving on each other. But Christmas is a big tradition for us, but we don't really have a tradition, but we just try to be intentional about exposing them to do new things. And if they ask to see something or do something, we try to expose them to that, but we don't really have a tradition per se.
But so for you, before I forget, what does intentional look like? So you talked about it. So you say you guys make sure that y'all, aren't with dates, with calendars, but that daily intention, what does that look like for you? And what does that need in order to be daily?
Repeat that one more time.
So what do you need to do daily in order to be intentional with the person that you're with? So yeah.
For my kids or for myself, for my family?
For yourself and for your husband.
That calendar. And the reason why is because we're able to find pockets of time where we can be together. So when we talk about intentionality, we also talk about the schedule, because Grace is cheering and Jackson is in school and all the things. So it looks different when we're not on the same page. So I can't say enough about asking for help. Can't say enough about making sure that you are intentionally asking for what you need in the moment. So if Grace is like for homework, we know she has to do homework every day. I'm not good at math. Rashad's good at math, so I don't do the math. He does the reading. I do the math. Um, Whenever I feel frustrated behind homework, I ask for help. Um, so just making sure that I am very aware of how I'm feeling about the moment, especially with Grace having a learning difference. I don't want to yell at her if I'm feeling like I'm at capacity, making sure that I am celebrating her in her wins and highs and lows so that she feels appreciated and valued in our home. So we try to make sure both of them feel supported and valued. So that way they feel a part of the conversation. So if Grace is sad or upset, I'll say, "Are you okay?" She'll be like, "No, I'm frustrated by my homework. I really don't want to do it." But then it's like, okay, but let's, giving her those positive affirmations, trying charts, trying different things, trying to make sure, it's constantly pivoting to see what best works for her. But we do it as a family. So Jackson has now, if she does something great, he'll be like, "Good job, Grace. I saw you did your best." And just having those positive conversations around them. I don't play around people talking, crazy about my kids because they're 4 and 8. So if they're running around and doing things, I just ask people to speak life over my kids and not, talk about how they're hyper or how they're jumping around. And I have to be mindful they're 8 and 4. And then of course, removing them from those type of environments as well is also important.
Like that.
Yeah, I think we're pretty. Lindsay and I are pretty similar. We don't really have a tradition, so to say. Um, in my household, we just try to do things as much things as we can together. Being intentional is, like you said, scheduling things on the calendar. It's also making room for each other because you'll do things as a family, like you'll watch TV or we'll go out, we'll make sure we take them to the park. We'll do homework together. Sometimes I could do it. Sometimes Travis will be able to do it, and we'll do things. Well, we're intentional about that, but at the same time, sometimes you want to spend, you want to give individual time to your kids. So I make sure that Jojo has time to him, like I have time with him, or we'll spend time together, or just to make everyone feel like their needs are being met. Like so, everyone gets their own individual time. We'll do family time, and then we also just do individual things together. Like, what is it that you want to do? Like, when his son comes to visit, we'll be like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Just so that everyone feels like their needs are being met, and academically and then emotionally, we can do that as well. So that's pretty much how we try to keep on track of being intentional with each other.
I like that. And the intentionality is daily. And I ask that because a lot of times as we're in it, we're just doing it, but we're not taking the time to say, okay, like, what does that look like? How do you do it? Because it is difficult. Like, we're looking at years, right? But there are some people that they just started. They're just starting their journey. They've, we're not, they're not as, and sometimes it's not there so much yet because you're still learning that person. So the intention takes time. It takes a lot of trials and tribulations. It's not going to come just easy, just like that. And sometimes you're still working through that. Even when you've been with the person for, however long, like, things change, things happen. I know for us, being impacted by what's been going on, in the White House has definitely impacted my own household. So just seeing that dynamic has been it's been interesting. But navigating this new normal is something that we're trying to do as much as possible. And I would say even with COVID, that was another thing that I saw too, where that people were comfortable but then they weren't. And then, so how do you now manage this discomfort, right? Because now we're in a state of discomfort again. And what does that look like? Like, prayerfully and thankfully, we're all okay. But for some people, they're not, right? Like, they were heavily impacted. With what's going on, the tension, the this and that. So how are you guys navigating everything that's going on right now?
Um, you mean in terms of like the changes that have been going on politically?
Well, anything, because I know for me, yeah, I mean, it could, you know what? That's because in my job, I feel it every day. So in a lot of ways, I feel like I am, it's impacted. So I'm just, I'm transfer. What is it? I'm transferring this. That I'm
Yeah.
today. Yeah, I'm transferring that. There we go.
Um, I think I think for us politically, we're aware, but I think we're aware of what's going on, but that's pretty much it. We're trying not to let it get to us. We're just being mindful of how we go about things. You okay? Okay.
What was the question, Dr. Green?
Oh, I was transferring my own situation. I was like, how are we doing? How are we doing now with all of what's going on these days? We're seeing the news all the time. Of seeing what's going on with Department of Education dismantling this and that. Like, so how are we navigating all of these new normals that are happening? And how can we, and that's just me. Rochelle made sure to let me know that's my that's my that's me going on right now, because we have so much there's so much going on. How do we manage that?
Sorry, I was putting one of my interns down. What'd you say, Makeda?
Not the interns. How do
So she was just asking, how do you like with politically, like we're having the Department of Education dismantling, like how does it affect you? I think for me, I'm just I'm very concerned about what's that going to look like in the upcoming years for special education, and just trying to figure out how can we, one, pivot, how do we, two, fight to make sure that our kids' needs are being met, whether they're neurotypical or neurodivergent. I think it's a unsettling time for everyone. I would say. I wouldn't say so much scary. You just want to know how to navigate.
It hasn't affected me as much yet because I got off social media because of it. I got off because I didn't want to, one, get all wrapped up in what I didn't really know, the jargon, all the things. So what saddens me the most about all of this is I don't think anybody knows. So it's every day is something different. Something's happening. Something is changing. Every day it's one day it's the Board of Education, the next day it's USAID, the next day it's this. I mean, so my students are struggling because of financial aid. My school being Title I, they don't know what that's going to look like. They don't know. So I have to kind of just not really have the conversation as much in my job, especially with my immigrant students as well. So, it's just constantly trying to keep them feeling empowered, especially my immigrant students. um, and the needle is always moving. It's always something. So I just try to make sure that I am being as positive as I can, especially with me not knowing every day what might happen.
I agree with that. That's also in my own career, my own job. I was definitely transferring a lot of that because I'm feeling it in my own. We see it, and so having to then my daily task, especially as being a psychologist, is parsing out work life, home life, and making sure that none of it intervenes and intertwines. However, with seeing it on the news all the time, it's just always in your face, right? You're seeing it on social media, you're seeing the same thing on NBC News that you're seeing on Facebook, that you're seeing on Instagram, that you're seeing on TikTok, that you're seeing on all of these spaces. And not to mention like all the other outlets that have now come into the picture with Open Sky and Substack, all these things. And so we're seeing that it's just so much. And especially with even in my own personal household, it's a lot. So having to navigate it, it's like almost as if you can't get out of it. It's like a vortex. And you're like trying to get out of the vortex as much as possible. So I commend you, Lindsay, on getting off of social media, because that it's a lot. And having to at least take out one type of outlet would definitely be great, because it can be the tension is a lot, especially on our kids, especially on our families, and even when they're at school, right? Because I'm sure they're having conversations with different people or hearing adults talking all the time. So it's a lot that we're hearing and that we're seeing. So navigating that is enough. But we're at the tail end. So what are some things that we could that some things that we can share, especially with our one piece of relationship advice you can give? And we'll start with the person that has the most amount of years on us. That's you.
That's me, huh?
That's you. That's you.
The most amount of years, and what is the question?
What is one piece of advice you can give?
Huh. I thought you were going to ask about something else. I heard advice, and I'm like, huh. Always be available to be open. Just be open, right? Because it's going to change every minute of the day. It's going to be new. And be okay with exploring your partner, right? Asking those questions that are always a little more difficult. Financial conversations, education conversations, supportive conversations. What does high school want to look like for our kid? How do you feel about medicating our kid, right? If we need to go that route. How do you feel about having, our parents over for Thanksgiving dinner? Like, how did you feel about Thanksgiving dinner after we had it? Like, having those conversations, even if they are difficult, and also being very, very honest when you respond. So sometimes we want to guard what we say because we don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. When in actuality, um, they already know that you're upset, or they already know that you want to say something. But just be very honest and transparent about what you're feeling and how you say it. Because you can say just about anything to your spouse or to your friend. And also have those girls' nights, right? We hide behind those two. We don't want, my mom guilt sets in. But it's rewarding for you guys to have a separate life too. I'm learning that as well. So with Grace, she has her separate life. She has her friends. And I need to learn how to hang out with mine too. Because you want to start to model the behavior you want to see with your kids. Because I want her to see mommy is hanging out with friends, but she loves daddy too. So just kind of making sure you're modeling the behavior that you want to see for your kids. Because my mom wasn't married. So my mom always says, you've been married longer than I've been, you were married longer than I was with your dad. So that's also impactful and important too, to make sure you're modeling the behavior that you want to see for your kids as they grow into adulthood. Because Grace is going to be a married woman maybe one day, right? And I want her to be, for me to be a light that she saw. Oh, my mom did, these things. My dad dated, because I didn't see my mom do those things. So I'm kind of reinventing the wheel. So she was married, but she was a widow. She just sent me a text. But not seeing her date and go out was something that I wanted to make sure I modeled.
And how do you have money talks? That was something that I wanted to ask you.
We have a binder. It says it's a binder we use. We write it out. Our money is together. We don't do separate accounts. I've seen that go horribly. So we don't do separate. We do together. Everything we have is together. So it's very important that we keep our money together and not separate, because what ends up happening is the more you keep it separate. Yes, come on. Come on. It's okay. It's okay. Okay. The more and more you keep it separate, the conversation looks so much different. So for example, when we on Saturday, that's Jackson. This is my life. It's 8:30 at night. what ends up happening is if we don't sit down and have a conversation about money, it starts to be a thing of, oh, this is yours, this is mine. No, we're married. We're together, right? And I say that because two of my friends keep their money separate. Like, and I hear them say, you owe me, like pay me back. Or I ended up spending money on tires, or can I borrow? I don't want that to be the conversation for me and my husband, right? Just to ask him, can I borrow anything from him? Or asking, you know, how much money did you spend on a t-shirt? And then it's like, oh, I spent $8 or $9. And then it's like, oh, well, you said you, that's not how Rashad and I communicate. So what we end up doing is we say, buy yourself something nice with, you know, every paycheck we buy ourselves something nice. We don't put a cap on it, but we know we stay within reason. But every Saturday morning we wake up, we go on to our binder, we write it out. This is what we have for the rest of the week. Before we do grocery shopping, I go to the grocery store, I buy the groceries, we come home, we put all of our bills together. Everything is in one pot. The mortgage, the water bill, the light bill. Fun fact, I used to be in charge of the bills and the water got cut off about 4 times. Not that we didn't have the money, that just wasn't my ministry, right? So I had to make sure that he was like, no, I can do it, right? I got it. So we keep it together because I feel like that's what God's supposed to, that's the godly principles. Because once you start separating things, right, it becomes a house divided to me. I've seen it work in other marriages. My aunt did it. But again,
Where they had separate?
they had separate.
Okay.
But everything related to the bills, the house, and all that was together. Now, the downside to putting it together is you can't surprise the other person. It's difficult to surprise Rashad because if I want to buy him a shirt and it's at a random place, or buy him some cigars, I have to say, Mom, can you buy the cigars and I'll pay you back? So it becomes very, very difficult. So we have decided that we would say, here's $100 on your account in case, you know, I want to buy him something. But I do think finances is a very, very difficult conversation to have, because but we started from nothing together too. So I think that also is we've grown together in our marriage. So financially, we both were living with our parents before we got married. We bought this house together. So a lot of our things came together. So but sometimes, I'm talking a lot, but sometimes I operate as a single woman. And that's not always a healthy mindset because my mom was a widow. So I would see her, you know, doing all the things, and I'm like, well, I never really see my mom, you know, not ask, but have the conversation with the gentleman to say, hey, this is how we do money. This is how we, and you know, we just didn't have those conversations. So putting our money together has always been, it worked for us. It works for us. But it also has a downside because, you know, you can't really surprise the person. It's really small stuff. But so far, so good. We have our, like I said, we have a binder, write out everything. When are things due, when things are due, both of our credit cards. We're not on each other's credit cards or anything like that, but we definitely are intentional about building each other's credit, building my credit, building his credit. So yeah, I mean, it's a hard conversation to have though. It's finances can make or break your marriage for sure. So yeah.
Wise words.
Yes. Definitely with piece of advice I would give is, yes, communication. You have to communicate thoroughly even when there's conversations you don't want to have, you have to, because it's like Lindsay said, the person already knows you're upset. So, you know, I would say to try to take a minute. I definitely take a minute before I say anything, because I don't want to say anything too harsh at the moment. So once the emotions, most of it is out of it, I discuss it. We know we can discuss it at a later time. Excuse me. These allergies are trying to creep
Bless
up,
you.
and thank you, and I'm trying to rebuke them. Yeah, so you have to communicate. Um, we also have our own financial system where we'll sit down and we're like, okay, well, next month is coming up, so this week, the end of the month is when we'll start talking about what's coming up for the next month. Like, these bills are due this month, this is the due date, we need to know what's going on, what are we paying, hopefully there are no surprises. And as far as like other things, because things are going to come up, of course there's going to be field trips, there's going to be something that's coming up with the kids. Those things are pretty minor. But having a house, oh dear Jesus. Um, having a house is the biggest surprise of all. So, like right now, we're in the back. He was just working tirelessly to fix the backyard and work on that. So you have to set aside that energy and that money to be able to deal with the hiccups that life brings, especially with dealing with home ownership. Things break, things go left. So, so I laugh because you laugh to keep yourself from crying, because dear Lord, sometimes like things will go wrong in your house and you're freaking out. But you have to communicate. Um, I feel like that is what helps with the relationship. Whether it's a good or bad, you have to have certain conversations. You just have to have good conversations. And I mean, in our relationship, we talk like best friends. We talk like that's my buddy, that's my friend. So it's like, okay, this is what I have going on. This is what I'm trying to tackle. And
You guys have
just
been friends for a while too.
say it again.
You guys have been friends for a while.
Yes, we know each other for for as long as Dazia has been in her relationship. So it's like you have that history. So we can, things are easier for us. It's not new. We're not new to each other. So you just really just have to communicate. That helps. And once you're doing that, whether it's not whether it's not whether it's a pleasant conversation or not, your kids pay attention. They may not be able to articulate what they're seeing, like how they're feeling about a situation, but they'll see like, oh, mom and dad sit down with this book and they go through stuff. And they know about money, because you're also teaching your kids about money, because
Yes.
it doesn't grow on trees. And we have the propensity to try to give our kids way more than we had. And it's like, pause. Because I'm going to give you way more than I have no problem. The trips, the everything. However, you need to understand that this doesn't come for free, or this doesn't come very easily. Like, we're working towards this, so that you need to work towards this. Like, how can we scale it to a way that you can see that for yourself, for your kids? Okay, if mom and dad are working towards it financially, as a kid, I need you to work towards it educationally. Like, I need you to get these grades, or I need you to do this or do these chores. Oh, good night. Mine is, I have to tend to him in a minute. I think he just got a fever, so mom stuff to the rescue. But yes, your kids are paying attention. So a big thing is just communicate and have time for yourself, because he needs his time. I need my time. Like, everything can't always be about, it's always going to be about the family. Excuse me. Ranch. It's always going to be about the family. But they need to have their time. It's like, so you can, your social battery and your energy could just refill itself.
That is true.
But also for speaking of money for children, Grace has this green light card, right? So what ends up happening is people can donate or give money to her. And it teaches her how to manage her money.
Oh,
So how old is your son?
my son is 6.
So, for example, if you want to teach him about allowance, right? You could put $2 on there a day, and if he want whatever his favorite restaurant is, he can pay for it himself. Like he'll see the money going away, so you'll see where it's spent. It teaches you about saving and things like that. And I don't think that we think that it's too young to teach them how to save and about money and about giving, and
But
how
it's not.
people give to you, but it's not. Um, because you just don't talk about it coming up. We just didn't talk about money. You just didn't. But I think it's a very courageous conversation to have, even if it's uncomfortable. Because I hate talking about it, but I know that I have to, but I can't stand doing it. Because it's just not comfortable. It's just not a comfortable conversation. But as women, we just have to be very intentional about asking and saying, I don't understand why this is this way, even if it is about finances, right? Because we went today and looked at model homes to try to, we looked at some houses that we are going to manifest that we're going to get, right? But to see our kids walk into this model home and like, oh my God, like we can live here. And I'm like, yeah, but also teaching them that these things cost, right? So that means if we want to move, then we have to cut back maybe on your cheerleading for 2 years, or because we have to have them to dream big. And I think that sometimes we forget to allow our kids to dream the big dream. And even for ourselves as adults, we forget how to dream too, because it's like everything is so high, and things are just coming out of nowhere. Like you said, being homeowner, my refrigerator went out twice. My wash machine went out and things like that. But we just have to be very, very intentional about, and that word is going to keep coming up because it's important that we have those conversations about finances.
I like that. The money conversation is definitely hard. I would say that. It's not, well, for, I would just say in general, because it's just uncomfortable. But I think it's just because we never had that, like seeing our parents, everything it just looked magic, right? And I mean, my mom is probably gonna, shake her head when she hears me say this, but it's, I think the only time I really saw it become a reality was when I was in college and I saw her take part of her retirement account and, put it towards my college education to pay the bill. And I think that was when the reality came in about, okay, this is real. This is different. So definitely having that. So it is past time. It is 8:30, and as we know, in our tiny human households, we got to get the kids to bed. We got to get our minds right for
As
tomorrow.
mine's screaming right now, talking about he don't want to go to bed.
You both, yes. Mine is sleeping. He was up all day, so I put him to bed at 6:55, and he's sleeping.
Mine is losing it right now because he's not feeling good. So I'm about to run off.
What's wrong with him?
He has I think he has a fever now, so I gotta run.
Mine was all last week. He didn't go to school for 4 days, so I pray that doesn't happen to you.
Oh, and then he's off tomorrow. We're off tomorrow. But thank you guys so much. I love this forum. I'm so glad that we had this conversation. And I think that this is something that we need to continue.
Yes.
Any questions for me? Definitely you guys could post. Makita could go through Makita and share my information. I thank you guys so much. I'm gonna run.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Right.
Yes. We'll close out. Thank you, Rochelle. All right. So Sandy said, Mrs. Little, she said, first and foremost, remember you are making memories. And then Sandy Howman said, for me as a single parent, I was blessed with an amazing village. So yes, that is true. Like the village is amazing. That's great. Hello. She said, great conversation. Thank you. Kivana says, thank you for this. You're welcome. We are so happy to have everyone on here for the amazing conversation that we had amongst three of us, just about relationships, family wellness, taking care of ourselves, taking care of our kids, taking care of our relationship, our household, money, all of the above, and even, you know, entertaining me in my my little transference there about the news, because it's on my heart, so, and it's on my mind, so it's something
Yeah,
I'm
I had
glad.
to get off. I had to get off social. I had to get off.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm thinking
It's a
about
lot.
doing it. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
it's a lot.
It's a bit much. So we're definitely happy to have this. We're happy to have you, Lindsay, and also Rochelle. Until next time, thank you all so much. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, we are.